It's not during the day that they miss you. It's at midnight, when the room is dark, the world is quiet, and there's nothing left to distract them. That's when avoidants finally realize what they lost, and that's when the thoughts they've been running from start to chase them. You know what's funny about avoidants? They spend so much time convincing themselves they don't need closeness, that they're better off alone, that intimacy is suffocating until the moment they lose you. And it's not the daytime when it hits them, it's at midnight, when the world is quiet, when distractions are gone, when the mask slips. That's when the thoughts creep in. They start remembering the way you laughed at things no one else noticed, the way you created a space where they could actually exhale, the way you gave them patience when they were distant and love when they pushed you away. And now they lie awake asking questions they'll never say out loud. When someone with avoidant tendencies is in a relationship, they often spend more time convincing themselves that they don't need it than actually enjoying the connection they have. They build walls, keep their distance, and tell themselves stories like, "I'm better off on my own," or "People always want too much from me." In those moments, intimacy feels like pressure, closeness feels like suffocation, and love feels like a trap. Because of this mindset, they rarely allow themselves to fully appreciate the person standing in front of them. What they don't realize is that their avoidance doesn't erase the bond that exists. It only delays the recognition of its value. And that recognition comes most powerfully after the relationship is gone. When an avoidant loses someone who loved them deeply, it creates a vacuum they never anticipated. Suddenly, all the little things they brushed off or minimized begin to surface in their mind with surprising intensity. They remember how you were patient when they pulled away, how you gave without demanding in return, and how your presence made them feel calmer, even if they never admitted it out loud. At the time, they may have labeled these gestures as ordinary or even unnecessary. But after you're gone, those same moments transform into irreplaceable treasures they can't recreate on their own. What makes this realization so powerful for avoidants is the contrast. During the relationship, they focused on the parts of closeness that scared them, the vulnerability, the dependence, the risk of being hurt. After the breakup, the fear is replaced by silence, and silence is louder than they expect. Without the daily reassurance of your love, they're left with their own company and the awareness that the intimacy they pushed away isn't something that easily comes back. The absence of your presence becomes a teacher, and it teaches them what their defenses blinded them to before they had something valuable, and they let it slip. This recognition isn't usually loud or dramatic. It shows up in quiet moments, like when they notice they don't have anyone to share good news with, or when they remember your unique way of making a bad day feel lighter. They might replay conversations in their head and realize how rare it was to be truly understood. And here's the part that stings them most: they understand, maybe for the first time, that the very intimacy they resisted is the thing they now long for. The truth is, avoidants often mistake safety for solitude. They convince themselves that distance keeps them protected, but after losing you, they discover that distance only keeps them lonely. That's why it's after the loss, not during the relationship, that they recognize the depth of what they had. They don't see it while they're in it because their focus is on escape. They see it in hindsight, when it's too late to go back, and that's when the value of intimacy finally hits them with a weight they can't ignore. It's not during the day that the weight of regret shows up most for someone who has lost a meaningful connection. It's at night. During the day, the avoidant can distract themselves with work, with social media, with routines, with anything that keeps their mind busy. They can scroll, binge watch, or dive into projects that give them a sense of control. As long as the sun is up, they can maintain the story that they're fine, that independence feels good, that they didn't need you as much as you thought. But at midnight, when everything slows down and the world gets quiet, there's nowhere left to hide from their own thoughts. That's when the facade starts to crack. Those hours alone in bed have a way of magnifying what's missing. The avoidant might find themselves staring at the ceiling, tossing and turning, replaying small memories they didn't even realize mattered at the time. Maybe it's the sound of your voice when you were excited about something, the way you encouraged them when they doubted themselves, or even just your presence in the same room without needing to say a word. The silence of the night makes those moments echo louder. It creates a contrast between the warmth of what they once had and the emptiness they now feel. That's why their regrets surface strongest in the dark, because in daylight, distractions help them suppress the truth. At midnight, there's nothing to soften it. It's often in those hours that the questions they've been avoiding creep in. They start asking themselves, why didn't I just let myself relax into that love? Why did I push away someone who gave me patience, understanding, and loyalty? What if no one else ever shows up for me like that again? These aren't questions they share with anyone else. They're private battles, whispered inside their own head, hidden behind a calm exterior they wear in public. But internally, they wrestle with the awareness that their fear of closeness cost them something irreplaceable. The night has a way of stripping away the rationalizations they leaned on during the day. In the sunlight, they can tell themselves stories. It wasn't the right fit. I wasn't ready. I didn't really care that much. But those stories don't hold up against the raw honesty that surfaces in the quiet of midnight. Alone with their thoughts, the truth surfaces. That they cared more than they admitted, that they miss you more than they want to confess, and that letting you go wasn't about incompatibility, it was about fear. The stillness of midnight also makes regret feel heavier because there's no immediate fix. They can't text you without seeming desperate. They can't undo months or years of avoidance with one gesture. All they can do is sit with the realization that they had love, comfort, and intimacy in their hands and let it slip away. And it's in those sleepless hours that the loss becomes undeniable, not because they suddenly transformed into someone new, but because silence has a way of forcing them to face what they've been running from all along. When someone with avoidant tendencies lies awake at night thinking about you, it's easy to imagine that those thoughts mean they're still in love. But what those late night regrets really reveal is loss, not love. Love is expressed in presence, in consistency, in showing up when it matters. Love is demonstrated by leaning in, not pulling away. During the relationship, if they couldn't choose closeness when it was available, if they couldn't meet you halfway when you were right there offering your heart, then their midnight turmoil isn't about love. It's about realizing what they've let slip through their fingers. Loss and love can feel similar when reflected on in the dark. They may replay memories with you and feel a tug at their heart. They may even think, I must have loved them more than I thought. But what they're actually experiencing is the pain of absence, the hollow space left behind where your energy used to be. It's the discomfort of knowing they had something meaningful and it's gone. That's not the same as the kind of love that motivates someone to act, to be vulnerable, or to protect a bond while it still exists. Love takes courage in the moment. Loss is just the echo that lingers when the moment has already passed. This is why so many people confuse an avoidance regret with a rekindled love. They imagine that because the avoidant misses them now, it must mean their heart is finally open. But midnight thoughts aren't promises, and they aren't action. They are the mind's way of trying to make sense of emptiness. If the avoidant truly loved in a way that could sustain a relationship, they would have fought for the connection while you were still there. They would have chosen to let their guard down and allow themselves to be seen when it mattered most. Regret only comes afterward, when the cost of their avoidance becomes undeniable. There's also a self-serving element to these reflections. Often, what they feel isn't just missing you. It's missing the comfort you provided. They miss the safety net, the reassurance, the sense that someone cared enough to stay despite their distance. That absence leaves them unsettled, not because of an active, ongoing love for you, but because they've lost access to the emotional cushion they didn't realize they depended on. What they're wrestling with in those sleepless hours isn't a newfound depth of feeling. It's the sting of consequences. It's important to see this difference clearly because mistaking their regret for love can pull you back into cycles that repeat the same pain. Their midnight thoughts don't rewrite history, and they don't erase the pattern of avoidance that pushed you away in the first place. What those thoughts really prove is not how much they love you, but how much losing you hurts them. It's loss speaking louder than love ever did. When someone who avoids intimacy finally realizes what they've lost, it can be tempting to believe they're late. Night reflections are an invitation for you to take responsibility. You might hear about how much they miss you, how they can't stop thinking about the moments you shared, or how they regret the way they handled the relationship. And because you once cared so deeply, A part of you may want to soothe that pain, to reassure them to step back into the role you once played. But the truth is their realizations don't belong to you. They are the consequences of choices they made, and it's not your job to carry the weight of their regret. Avoidants often operate under the illusion that they can keep love at a safe distance without ever having to pay the price. They assume intimacy will always be waiting, that patience will never run out, and that the person who loves them will always be there when they're finally ready. When you walked away, you broke that illusion. You proved that love isn't infinite when it isn't nurtured, and that people who give wholeheartedly eventually reach a point where they must protect their own hearts. The lessons they're learning in the silence of their nights are lessons they created for themselves. No one can take that journey for them, and you aren't responsible for fixing the discomfort it brings. It's also important to recognize that regret isn't the same as change. Just because someone acknowledges the loss doesn't mean they are suddenly ready to behave differently. They may wish they could go back to the comfort you gave them, but wishing isn't the same as growing. If you step in and ease the burden of their guilt, you're not only taking on responsibility that isn't yours, you're also preventing them from facing the very discomfort that might lead to transformation. Their realizations have to sting, or else they remain stuck in the same patterns, repeating the cycle with you or with someone else down the line. There's a subtle danger in believing you need to respond to their late night thoughts. If you do, you risk reinforcing the dynamic that exhausted you in the first place, you carrying the emotional labor, you over giving while they underdeliver, you holding space while they retreat. Their pain may be real, but so is yours, and your healing depends on recognizing that their feelings are not your responsibility anymore. Their awakening doesn't erase the nights you cried, the times you felt invisible, or the moments when their distance cut you deeply. What they're going through now is part of their process. They have to confront the emptiness they created by pushing you away. They have to sit with the loss of your presence and learn what it costs to treat intimacy as a threat instead of a gift. That's their work, not yours. You already did your part. You loved, you showed up, and you gave them something real. Their realizations are not a call for you to return, but a mirror showing them the consequences of their choices. There's a certain kind of strength in knowing you gave everything you could without holding back. While an avoidant might be lying awake at night haunted by thoughts of what they pushed away, you can rest with the peace of knowing that you showed up fully. You loved with an open heart, you were brave enough to be vulnerable, and you didn't let fear dictate the way you treated the person you cared about. That's not weakness, even though it might have felt like it at times. It's a rare kind of courage. Many people spend their lives guarding themselves from love, terrified of being hurt. You weren't one of them. You allowed yourself to risk rejection for the chance to experience connection, and that choice alone sets you apart. This is the perspective that changes everything. Their midnight thoughts are about regret, but yours can be about pride. Not pride in them, but pride in yourself. You get to walk away knowing that you didn't withhold, you didn't sabotage, and you didn't let fear win. And because of that, you've planted a seed in yourself that will only grow stronger over time. The love you gave doesn't disappear, it builds a deeper capacity within you to give and receive in the future. When someone else enters your life who is capable of meeting you at the same level, you'll be ready because you've already proven that you know how to love wholeheartedly. One of the most powerful things to realize is that love, when it's given bravely, always finds its way back to you. It may not come back in the form of the person you lost, and that's okay. It may return through someone new, someone who has the emotional availability and maturity to cherish what you offer. Or it may even return through the way you love yourself more deeply now because you've seen what you're capable of. Either way, love has a way of circling back, but only when you allow yourself to keep your heart open rather than shutting it down out of bitterness or disappointment. The avoidant may always be haunted by the fact that they couldn't meet you there. They may wonder if they'll ever find someone who loves with the same purity and depth. But that's their story, not yours. Your story is that you lived courageously in love, and that courage is what ensures your future will look brighter than your past. You don't have to be afraid that you wasted your love on the wrong person. Nothing about love given from a genuine place is wasted. It shapes you, it strengthens you, and it sets the standard for what you'll accept next time. So while they wrestle with their avoidance in the middle of the night, you can rest knowing you have nothing to regret. You did the hardest thing, you chose love when it wasn't easy. And because of that, you carry forward the quiet confidence that love will return to you in someone who is truly ready to receive it. And so, when we talk about the midnight thoughts that keep avoidance awake after losing you, remember this: those thoughts don't belong to you anymore. They are theirs to wrestle with. What belongs to you is the knowledge that you showed up with courage, that you loved without holding back, and that you gave something meaningful and real. Their regret is not your burden. It's simply proof that your presence mattered. Your path now isn't to wait for them to figure it out. It's to continue forward with the certainty that you are capable of giving and receiving love in its truest form. What you offered wasn't wasted. It's a reflection of your strength. And it's a promise that love will meet you again, this time with someone who's ready to stand beside you without fear. Thank you for listening, for giving your time and your heart to this message. I hope you carry forward the reminder that your love is a gift and that the right person will never treat it like something to run from. Until then, hold your head high, sleep peacefully, and know that love always finds its way back. Good night, and thank you